absolutely everything.
Do you think that's an improvement or not?
It sometimes can be an annoyance. It's necessary for democracy to have a free press. It's not that the press wasn't free, just the press wasn't moved to question nearly to the extent that they do now.
So what did you read about before? Just basic facts?
Yeah, whatever the press release was from whatever government agency was the news of the day, and you just accepted it because your government never lied to you. And you found out one day that the government had been lying to you for years. The news media figured it out. That got them much more involved.
Did they lie a lot about facts of the war?
Well, there's been a lot of revelations that we were lied to about the whole Gulf of Tonkin thing that started it in the first place. That all of that was a contrived situation in order to give Johnson and...
I don't understand what that was.
The Gulf of Tonkin was when a couple of U.S. warships in the Gulf of Tonkin, which is part of the China Sea down there off of Vietnam, were allegedly attacked by North Vietnamese gunboats. You know, which is sort of like you swimming up alongside an 80-foot boat here in Lake Coeur d'Alene and throwing a handful of sand at it, and the next thing you know, they've launched a war on you.
Oh, joy.
But they used this incident, which there's a lot of testimony now that states that it never even happened. The whole thing was contrived to give the United States the reason to go into Vietnam and to begin airstrikes.
So that was all made up? Did they know
There's
that?
a lot of people, we didn't know it then. I'm not sure that we absolutely know it now, but there's certainly a strong body of opinion that that was a contrived situation, and that many other situations since then were contrived, and that we were lied to repeatedly over the years about how many people were dying until it was over with.
Will they say less than were dying?
Well, yeah, they would report fewer people dying, because if you knew what the real body count was, there'd be more protesting. And the fear of the protests, you know, some of the protests were communist financed. Many of them weren't. Most of them weren't. But by the time Nixon was elected in '68, he was so afraid that any protest was being, you know, was a communist-inspired thing. And everywhere he looked, he, you know, saw the Red Scare all around him. Common U.S. citizens in the street. And so it created a real paranoia in that presidency and led to Watergate.
I was told that Jane Fonda had some kind of big protest.
Jane Fonda went to Hanoi and spoke on behalf of the other side. I don't even remember that happening at the time. You know, but she's been much hated ever since for it, by especially people with a strong military background. You know, for giving aid and comfort to the enemy, so that type of thing. And you know, I can see where you probably wouldn't want to do that either when you're actually involved in a war or something.
Were you personally affected by when the government lied to you? I mean, when they were lying to people, did it...
Personally affected only in that your attitude slowly changed.
You said you became upset about it, or...
Like I said, I wasn't one to protest, and I never have been one to get politically or actively involved in things.
Do you think that's the same way for most people?
Well, yeah, for most people, yeah, probably it is. Most people don't get involved. But there's an ever-growing segment that do get involved.
Well, I guess that concludes our interview.
Well,
unless
wonderful.
You have something
I hope
else
you've
you'd like
learned.
To mention.
No. Come on down and mow the lawn.
Doesn't need to be mowed. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.